The Continental Can Company presents the new Report to the Nation with Boris Karloff, Alan Young, Fred Utel, Sergeant Ben Kuroki, and Maxine Sullivan, who opens the show with Loch Lomond.
Oh, you'll take the high road and I'll take the low road. I'll be in Scotland for you. But me and my true love will never meet again on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. 'Twas there that we parted in young Shady Glen by the steep, steep side of Ben Lomond, where in purple hue the Highland hills review, and the moon shone now in the gloaming.
You'll take the high road and I'll take the low.
But I'll be in Scotland for you. But me and my true love will never meet again on the bonny bank, on the bonny, bonny bank, on the bonny, bonny bank of Loch Lomond, Loch Lomond.
Good evening. This is John Daly welcoming you to the new Report to the Nation. And thank you, Maxine Sullivan, for Loch Lomond. We'll be hearing from you again in a few minutes, along with Boris Karloff, Alan Young, Fred Utel, and Sergeant Ben Kuroki. But first, here's Ted Pearson speaking for Continental Can.
Yes, the Continental Can Company, makers of cans, of bottle caps, of paper and fiber containers, and of plastic. The containers made by Continental Can Company bring you many products you use every day. Lots of your favorite foods and beverages are packed in containers made by Continental Can. So are drugs, motor oil, paints, and thousands of other things. For Continental containers serve behind the scenes, behind the labels of America's finest products.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's the next question. The $3,487,633 question: what makes a quiz show?
Radio quiz shows are a $13 million industry, and Fred Utel, one of radio's most famous quizmasters, has been collecting his share of that impressive sum for a decade, just asking people questions. He's met some very interesting people in that time, and he's brought the most interesting one along with him tonight. But before we meet the quizmaster's guest, let's say hello to Frederick himself. Good evening, Fred Utel.
Thank you very much. Well, hello, Mr. John Daly. Welcome to our program. Where do you live, sir?
Wait a minute, Freddie. This is not a quiz show.
I'm terribly sorry. I guess that's a matter of habit, John.
Yes. Well, suppose you tell us now, how would you describe a quizmaster, one like Fred Utel?
Well, immodestly, may I say that Fred Utel is the best informed man on unimportant subjects in the whole United States. And he can be heard over another network every Thursday evening on the Detect and Collect Plug.
Very good, Fred. Now, tell us about your B.F. Goodrich Detect and Collect and your guest for the evening here on Report to the Nation. And second plug.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. I guess that concludes this evening's plug. Except for the 6 and the 7. I may try to slip in a little later on. Well, L&G, which stands for ladies and gentlemen, quiz shows are really pretty easy to understand, and their popularity is very easy to know about. Apparently, John Q. Public likes to hear what John Q. Public has to say. And, of course, the listener also likes to pit his or her mental acumen against the man on the street or fellows like Kieran or FPA or Levant and others, because if the listener can answer before the contestant or the expert does, then the listener can say, with pardonable pride, of course, well, I'm certainly smarter than he is. What a dope. That's what happens at quiz shows. Of course, it's all in fun and for entertainment's sake. However, there is a very important part of quiz shows in general about which the listening public is unaware. The blessed, regular quiz-goers, too, the professional quiz kids. And to illustrate, here is my own special guest this evening, a personage who has been heard on the air for 10 years by everyone, and yet no one knows her. The champion, always present contestant of New York quiz shows, Mrs. Sadie Hertz from Brooklyn. good evening, Mrs. Hertz. How are you tonight?
All right, how are you?
Huh?
How are you? I'm fine.
Oh, I'm fine, Mrs. Hertz. I'm awful glad to see you here this evening. Is your husband here tonight?
Yes, he's in the audience.
Whereabouts is he? Right over there. Hello, Mr. Hertz. How are you? Glad to see you here tonight. Mrs. Hertz, tell me, would your husband mind if you and I went out tonight after the show for late supper?
No, I don't think so. You can
Think
ask
it'd be
him.
all right? Is it all right, Mr. Hertz? Oh, thank you. Mrs. Hertz, tell me, Mrs. Hertz, how tall are you?
Oh, I think about 5 feet.
About 5. I'm 6. We're going to be a charming
Oh.
pair on the floor. And Mrs. Hertz, I know that this is a personal question, but how old are you?
Oh, no, woman, no, ladies. Women they don't tell their right age.
Okay.
They're 40 plus.
You're 40 plus? Always 40 plus, huh?
That's right.
But how
Never
long,
get older.
how long, Mrs. Hertz, have you been going to quiz shows?
About 10 years.
About 10 years.
Yes.
Go every day?
On and off, yes. Yes, I do about four or 5 times a week.
4 or 5 times a week you
Yes.
go to quiz shows. Well, what have you won?
Well, I won dishes,
Yeah.
pots, pans,
Yes. How about money?
money. I won money, too.
What was the biggest amount of money you ever did win?
Well, on Detect and Collect show.
You did the biggest amount?
Yes.
You got a barber chair on that, didn't
Yes, I did. And when the curtain rose, there was a man sitting in, and I thought I had to take the man the chair and all.
Well, you had to take him to the barber chair, huh? And you stole that. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do tonight. Tonight, in honor of you, Mrs. Hertz, we have designed a very special quiz show just for you, and we call this show the Mrs. Sadie Hertz from Brooklyn 5 for 5 quiz show. This is the world's premiere tonight for the first time on the air. This is your own quiz show. Will you play it with us?
Yes, I
All right,
will.
here are the rules and regulations. We will ask
Yes.
you 5 questions. All 5. If you get all 5 right, you get $5. You get 4 right, you get $4. 3 right, $3. You know the rules?
Yes, I do.
On your toes, Mrs. Hertz.
I will.
This is your opportunity.
I'm on my toes.
All right, here we go. Answer as fast as you can. Your first question, how do you pronounce Brooklyn?
Brooklyn.
That's $1 you have. What is the opposite color to white?
Blue.
Don't help her now.
Yes.
Don't help her. Now, the other one with no color. What's the dress? What's the color of your dress?
Black.
Black. That's right. That's $2. And tell me this. If it's daytime, when the sun is up, what is it when the sun is down?
Nighttime.
Nighttime, that's $3. And here's another question for you. If a lady is called Miss or Mrs., what is a man called?
Mister.
Mister, that's 4 you have. And now, Mrs. Hertz, here's where you can get your 5. What is your name?
Mrs. Sadie Hertz.
That's 5. That's wonderful. Well, Mrs. Hertz, you know, as always, this has all been in fun. You've always been a good sport, and tonight marks your first appearance as a professional actress, so therefore it's my privilege to present to you a well-deserved special gift for you, Mrs. Sadie Hertz of Brooklyn, $100 from the Continental Can Company. Thank you for playing our game tonight.
The Continental Can Company and Report to the Nation present the star of radio, stage, and screen, Mr. Boris Karloff, in John Collier's unusual story, Back for Christmas, adapted by Charles Monroe. And now, Boris Karloff as Dr. Carpenter.
Time was growing dangerously short. But at last, when the living room began to empty of the friends who had come to say goodbye to me, to Hermione, my wife.
Well, good luck on your lecture tour in the States, old chap.
Thank you, Major.
We'll be expecting you back for Christmas.
Oh, don't worry, Major. I'll see that he's back for Christmas. The doctor's very fortunate in having a wife who's such a good manager, Hermione. I've always planned everything for the doctor, and I expect I always shall. He'll be back in England for Christmas. You may all believe me.
Goodbye, Hermione.
Goodbye.
They all believed her. For a moment, I almost believed her myself. For 10 long years, she had managed me, arranging every detail of my life, dinners, teas, committees, heaven knows what.
Herbert, they're gone. Don't stand there looking into space. Go upstairs now and change into your brown tweed. I'll attend to everything else.
I went upstairs to take off the suit that I was wearing. But instead of changing into the brown tweed, I put on an old, dirty bathrobe. Then I set about making one or two other little arrangements, which I completed just as I heard Hermione coming up the stairs.
Good heavens, Herbert. Why are you wearing that old bathrobe? I told you to dispose of it long ago.
Now, who in the world has got to lock it? A go lock it down the bathtub drain, Hermione.
A locket? Down the drain? Let me see.
You must bend over it to see, my dear. Way over.
It's absurd. I don't see a thing down here, Herbert.
Hermione bent closer to peer into the drain. I raised a short length of lead pipe, struck her neatly and firmly on the back of the head. Uttering no sound, he sprawled over into the tub, quite dead. Behind the bathroom door, I took my surgical instruments and a pile of newspapers and began the work I had to do. When at last my grisly task was done, I began to carry the wrapped bundles down to the cellar, where in a far corner I had dug a deep hole when Hermione was away one day, planning a party. A few more trips up and down, and I had filled the hole. Then I removed my bathrobe, stuffed it into the incinerator with the clothes Hermione had been wearing. For the last time, I went to the top floor, bathed carefully, scoured the tub, cleansed and packed my instruments, dressed, and taking our bags, went out to the car. The stars were superb, and Marion was waiting for me in Chicago. All I had to do was to establish myself in some thriving but out-of-the-way town in the States. I could dispose of Hermione's bags and clothes through the ship's porthole, and all would be well. I've never known such ease as I found in New York. I was even able to smile a little when the clerk at the hotel called to me one night and...
Here we are, your first letters from England, Dr. Carpenter.
Why, thank you. I suppose they're all from friends, hoping I'll be back for Christmas.
Oh, and, Doctor, that reservation for Mrs.
Put it on the books. She'll be pulling in from Chicago on Christmas Day. Already, you see, I'd picked up a few Americanisms. I strolled over to a chair in the lobby and opened the letters, and most of them were addressed to Hermione. There was a letter from the Wallingtons, one from Major Sinclair, two from the Hewitts, and a dignified but cheery note from the vicar. The last was a business letter from Holt & Sons, builders and decorators. It was addressed to Hermione. Some bill, probably. I opened it. Dear Madam, it began. We are in kind receipt of your acceptance of estimators below and also of fees. We beg to repeat, you may have every confidence in same being ready in ample time for Dr. Carpenter's Christmas present. We are setting men to work this week, excavating for the sunken wine bin in the far corner of your cellar.
Once more, the rich and unique voice of Maxine Sullivan. This time singing, I'm Gonna Love That Guy, Maxine Sullivan.
I've made out a list of the things that I need and wanted to do. And right at the head, in letters of red, is the first of a few. This promise I've made, cross my heart, hope to die, is the first of the first for my honey and I'm gonna love that guy like he's never been loved before. I'm gonna show that guy he's the fella come true. And the years between might never have been. We'll live our life anew. I'm gonna kiss that guy like he's never been kissed before. And though I miss that guy, he's the fellow I've waited for. He'll hold my heart again, we'll never part again, forever and ever. I'm gonna kiss that guy. I'm gonna hug that guy. I'm gonna love that guy like he's never been loved before.
You ever notice the special care a housewife takes in washing her dishes and silverware? Where she wants to be sure that anything that comes in contact with food is clean and sanitary. Well, the folks who can food are particular about such things, too. You see, both the can and the food inside are sterilized by cooking after the can has been hermetically sealed. Now, I'll tell you what that means. It means that when you use only part of a can of food, the safest place for the leftover portion is right in the can. Just keep it cool and covered. There isn't a single container in your kitchen that's safer or more sanitary. And remember, when you open a can of food, you can be sure it has never been opened before.
There's something big and strong and rugged about Canada and Canadians. So tonight, the Continental Can Company and Report to the Nation presents something from Canada that is neither big, nor strong, nor rugged. Ladies and gentlemen, the Dominion's favorite zany and perfect proof that nothing can ever destroy the friendship that exists between Canada and the United States, Mr. Alan Young.
Thank you, John Daly, and good evening, friends.
Well, if it isn't Alan Young in the flesh.
Yeah. Never go anywhere without it.
Speaking of going places, Alan, you've been in the United States for over a year now. Are you getting around all right?
Am I getting around? Romance, Central Park, riding around on a horse and buggy in the moonlight. Boy, that's living.
Oh, who'd you go with?
You got to go with somebody? I don't care. You know, where I come from, a boy's best friend is his mother. Outside of his horse. His mother's never been inside my horse.
Well, let's forget love. Let's forget love for a minute, Alan, and get down to the topic at hand.
Oh, by all means, let's not stand here bandying legs, John. Go ahead.
Alan, would you mind telling us how you came to choose radio as your occupation?
Oh, it's a long, drawn-out, boring story. So I'll tell it. It was a year ago last June. I went down to the radio station early one morning, and I walked into the front hall of a very large building. What a big radio station this is. You know where I go to get a job. There's so many doors. Let's see the signs on these doors. Technical men, control men, production men. What's this next one? Manager's office. Yeah, I'll try to get in and see the manager.
I'm busy. Whatever it is, slip it under the door.
Okay. With a tight squeeze, but I made it. So I entered radio and decided to try dramatic acting. At first they turned me down, but I kept on. After all, they laughed at Edison. They laughed at Marconi. They laughed at Fulton. Wonder who wrote their stuff. Finally, they gave me the leading role in the radio serial, The Story of Dr. Young.
Dr. Young is wanted in surgery immediately. Dr. Young is wanted in surgery immediately. The roof is leaking.
The roof is leaking. You want a carpenter?
Well?
Nurse,
Yes, Doctor.
I'm ready to begin. Quick, get me some hot water and a towel.
Are you going to operate, Doctor?
I want to take a bath.
But, Doctor, the operation.
Now I'm ready. Are you?
Ready.
Scalpel.
Scalpel.
Sponge.
Thumb.
Forceps.
Forceps.
Suture.
Suture.
Nurse.
Yes.
Where's the patient? I didn't get that serial, but they tried me out in a big detective program in which I played the part of the famous law enforcement officer, Sheriff Hopalong Young.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is Sheriff Young to tell us about another of his famous cases. Sheriff Young, what would you say was the most exciting case in your career?
Well, partner, I remember a case I broke when I was a member of the Texas Rangers. It all started in a little border town. One night it was raining, and down by the railroad station... That man is now in prison for life.
Thank you, Sheriff Young. Well, after that, Alan Young tried out on a different program altogether. It was called Uncle Alan and His Happy Kitty Hour.
Thank you, and good morning to you, kiddies. Come on now. Pop out of bed. Mom, too. And this is your happy Uncle Alan. All right, you just bet you. Uncle Alan is brought to you by the makers of Vom Schnuck's Lollipop. The only lollipop containing the famous ingredient, hypothetic photosynopside. Your druggist knows this as homogenized gook. Kiddies, would you like to taste a nice big lollipop? Yes. Well, run upstairs and take a nickel out of your daddy's pocket. Go to the corner store, buy a Vom Schnuck's lollipop, take it home, and see if you don't get the biggest licking you ever had in your life. Kiddies, just remember to eat Vom Schnuck's lollipop and grow up to be a great big... And now, kiddies, it's time to say goodnight. But before we say goodnight, little Norman Lippenpfeffer, won't you stand up here and tell all the kiddies what a benefit it is to belong to Uncle Alan's club?
Hey, shut it!
Yes, well, Uncle Alan is so kind and gentle to all his little kiddies, isn't he, Norman?
Hey, shut it!
Because you see, nothing can be gained by using force. Say goodnight, Norman.
Hey, shut it!
Little Norman slipped on the rug. Good night, kiddies.
Because all blood is red and all screams of pain sound alike, and because most Americans hate and despise bigotry, Report to the Nation has a story for you tonight. All of it is true. Unfortunately, some of it is nauseating.
I ain't gonna ride no taxi with no lousy Jap. I come from California.
That's our last story tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And the Continental Can Company and Report to the Nation very proudly present the lousy Jap, Sergeant Ben Kuroki of Hershey, Nebraska, who flew 58 missions as an air gunner over Europe and Japan. Some Jap. Ladies and gentlemen, a very popular citizen of Hershey, Nebraska, but not all points east and west, Sergeant Ben Kuroki, United States Army Air Forces.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and Mr. Daly.
Sergeant Kuroki, you have a beat. Let's get at it.
I'm a Nisei. That makes my father and mother were born in Japan, but I was born here in Nebraska. I did the best I could to fight a war, and so did a lot of other Nisei. In Italy, with the Merrill Marauders, and as intelligence men in the Pacific. We died and bled in the same proportion as our fellow Americans who had no Jap background. I think we, and that means Italian Americans, German Americans, and Japanese Americans, deserve a better break than we usually get. It's humiliating and it's embarrassing to us, but that isn't very important. What is important is this. That what is happening to us isn't what they taught us America was when we were school kids. And that isn't what we and our comrades, all 10 million of them, were fighting for.
Well, Sergeant, is this bigotry a coast-to-coast problem?
No, that's why I'm willing to stick my neck out and fight it. It's a small minority, a very small one, that's making things unpleasant. Sure, a guy in Salt Lake City wouldn't ride with a lousy Jap because he came from California. But on the other hand, 3 Californians, and big important men they are too, pleaded so well for me that Secretary of War Simpson permitted me to go and fight in the Pacific.
How about the men that you fought with?
There wasn't much bigotry in the skies over Europe or Japan, and practically none on the ground.
How about your crewmates from the B-29?
Wonderful. I had 28 missions out there, and there were only 2 times when anybody even remembered I was of Japanese extraction. Briefing used to bring it out in small jokes like this.
Hey, Honorable Sergeant, we're going to Osaki. What and where is Osaki?
How'd I know? I'm from Nebraska. And then over Japan, when the flak got heavy, I could always expect something like this on the intercom.
Hey, Honorable Tail Gunner, your Uncle Nagasaki's really sore this afternoon, ain't he?
Well, Sergeant, there's no trouble getting along with those boys.
None.
What was your biggest disappointment during your Pacific fighting?
I never got in on a raid on Kagoshima.
Kagoshima?
Yeah, Kagoshima was my old man's hometown. I wanted to drop a few in there and go home and kid him. I did get in on some work on Yokohama. That's where my mother came from.
Did you tell her about it?
Sure. She and the old man were very pleased. They're Americans, you know.
One more question. From what you know, from what Japanese-born Americans tell you, what do you, as an ordinary citizen, think about the Emperor Hirohito?
The Japs do, I repeat, do think Hirohito's a god. I think he's a fascist, and I hope they throw him out on his imperial ear.
Well, Sergeant Kuroki, I think we covered a little ground here this evening. Suppose you sum it up for us.
I'd just like to repeat something I learned in school when we Americans pledged allegiance to our flag. Remember how it finished? One nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's all I had on my mind.
Remember the days when every front hall had its grandfather's clock? Well, of course, once in a while it took a notion to south, and then grandfather himself got this.
Hey, Grandpa, you going to eat that big hickory nut you're holding?
Nope, we're going to oil the clock.
Oil a clock with a hickory nut? How?
Well, I crack the shell, and then I hold the nut meat in these pliers, and then I squeeze. One drop of hickory nut oil in the right place does the trick.
Well, grandfather's drop of hickory nut oil may have done the trick, but it certainly did it the hard way. What a difference from today when oiling a clock is as simple as reaching for a handy little can of oil. And that's just one of the many household tasks that have been made simpler and easier by Continental cans. For not only fine lubricants, but time-saving cleaners, handy floor wax, ready-mixed paint, and many other household products come in convenient metal containers that are made by the Continental Can Company. All examples of how Continental cans serve behind the scenes, behind the labels of America's finest products.
Alan Young appeared tonight through the courtesy of Bristol Myers. Report to the Nation was brought to you by the 25,000 men and women of the Continental Can family, producing for the health, welfare, and happiness of the nation. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting.